Ossetru, A Native European Spirituality by Stephen McNallen. Chapter 10. The Universe, Its Origin and Evolution. The creation myth of any people reflects their attitudes towards the divine, themselves, their place in the universe, and their values. This is as true of the Germanic people as any other. When we examine the Nordic tales about the origin of the universe and of humans, we immediately notice several things. They support the idea of human worth. They establish the equal value of men and women. And, remembering of course that they are metaphors, we find them more consistent with the spirit of modern science than perhaps any other ancient cosmology. First, let's examine the account as described in the Eddas. In the beginning, there was nothing but a yawning void called Gningagap. From the northern part of this vastness, waters flowed towards the middle, and as they flowed, they turned to ice. Buried within the ice was a yeasty essence, the very substance of potential life. A drizzling rain continually fell upon it, so that it formed layer after layer of hardened rime. From the southern part of the expanse came fire and sparks, stretching towards the middle of Gningagap. The heat fell upon the ice, and where it melted, the yeasty fluid began to stir with life. This life took on the shape of a man-like being. He was called Ymir. A man and a woman were born from the sweat under his left arm, and one leg begot a son on the other. From Ymir and his offspring came the race of frost giants. A giant cow also emerged from the melting ice. She was called Udhumla, and 4 rivers of milk flow from her teats. This milk fed Ymir. As for the cow, she lived by licking the blocks of salty ice. She lived for 3 days, and from the ice she shaped a man with her tongue. The man's name was Buri, and he was handsome and strong. His son, named Bor, who married Besla, a giant's daughter. Bor and Besla had 3 sons, Odin, Vili, and Ve. They slew Ymir, and from the parts of his body they constructed the world. His blood became the sea, and his flesh the earth. Mountains are made from his bones, and the dome of the sky is the inside of his skull. Later, Odin and his 2 brothers were walking along the seashore when they came across 2 trees, an ash and an elm. Odin gave them the breath of life. Vili granted them wit and the ability to move about, and Ve bestowed on them senses. The ash became a man called Ask, and the elm became a woman who bore the name Embla. Taken at face value, the story is peculiar, even absurd. Giants made of ice, cosmic cows, and a world made from the body of a frost giant. It's easy to dismiss this as the childish fantasies of a primitive race. When we look at it in terms of symbols, patterns, and processes, though, we see something much more sophisticated. One of the first things we notice is that the universe is not made ex nihilo, that is to say, out of nothing. It is not the creation of a god. Rather, the cosmos arises through a series of natural processes involving primordial fire and ice. This contrasts sharply with the biblical account, where God creates the world over a period of 7 days simply by willing everything into existence. Since God created everything from nothing, it all belongs to Him. The earth, all the stars in the far-flung galaxies, every lonely atom of hydrogen drifting in the interstellar emptiness, humans too are part of this creation, and thus we all belong to God. We are His property, and He can do with us whatever He wants. We are supposedly given free will, but if we exercise it, we are punished. Free will is a cruel joke when bestowed on a slave who can only peer through the bars of his cage. The Germanic creation myth has an entirely different premise. The worlds arise from the laws of nature, without divine intervention. Indeed, we can hardly call the Eddic account a creation myth, since there was no creator involved. Odin, Vili, and Ve, who constructed the world from the corpse of Ymir, are at the most rearrangers, not creators. Likewise, humans are not brought into being from nothingness, nor from an inert substance like clay or dirt. They are fashioned from something already alive, the 2 trees found on the beach by the gods. In the worldview of our ancestors, then, neither the universe or the humans inhabiting it are property of the gods. We belong to ourselves. Free will is not given to us. It is a natural result of our being. We are kin and co-workers with the gods, not their property. Another thing we notice is the scientific tone of the Eddic story. Consider the beginning of all things. First, there was a great yawning abyss, Ganinga Gap, which translates as the magically charged void. Only in recent times have scientists discovered that what we think of as a vacuum is actually a seething cauldron of forces. Some atomic particles are continuously popping into existence and then disappearing back into the invisible fabric of the universe many times every second. Empty space is not empty. It is the energized quantum foam underlying all existence. Calling it a magically charged void sounds like a poetic description of subatomic reality. Note too the time span involved in the Germanic version. In Genesis, God supposedly created everything in 6 days, which, if taken literally, is ludicrous given the scientific evidence. The Eddas, on the other hand, speak of vast periods of time. In the Prose Edda, Snorri records that Niflheim, the world of mist, existed for many ages before the formation of Earth. This scenario is much more in line with the facts than creating the cosmos in just over an average work week. Switching from quantum mechanics to biology, we find that the Germanic description of the beginning of life is startlingly modern. It begins when the yeast, contained in Niflheim's primordial waters, is activated by light and the heat from Muspelheim. This sounds much more like the primordial soup of organic matter and water, stimulated by sunlight from which the earth is generally thought to have come. Once formed, life develops in a progressive way. At first it is androgynous. Ymir and Buri each begets their descendants from himself. Later, distinct male and female sexes appear, symbolised by Buri's son Bor and the generation of frost giants. Finally, an advanced form of consciousness manifests in Odin, Vili and Ve, whose names stand for inspiration, will and holiness respectively. This sequence from inanimate matter to asexual reproduction, to sexual production, and to higher forms of awareness follows the pattern of evolution revealed by the biological sciences. I am not suggesting that ancient texts can be used as key to scientific knowledge. In fact, I believe the opposite. Namely, that we should depend on our scientists for the ultimate truth about how the universe, as well as life on Earth, came to be. However, it is uncanny that the Eddic accounts are precise metaphors for modern theories concerning the formation of the cosmos and the evolution of life. This is something that could not have been known until modern times, and it testifies to the wisdom of our ancestral lore. Taken at face value, the Norse creation myth is naive and absurd. When seen as metaphors, however, we see layer after layer of profound truth. The essential message is that the people of the North are not the property of the gods. Instead, we are beings with free will and with a link to the divine, that product of a long line of evolution that began when energy quickened life from matter in the void. The 9 worlds. After fire and ice have done their work, and after Ymir has been dismembered to form the earth and sky, what remains are the 9 worlds. These are nestled in the branches and the trunk of the immense world tree known as Yggdrasil. The worlds may be thought of as states of being, or like the worlds visited by shamans on their journeying. In a more rationalized mode, we might identify them with the parallel universes hypothesized by physicists. The description of the 9 worlds, just like the myths themselves, are metaphors. Edred Thorson considers them as states of consciousness or levels of being. What you or I would actually find there may not much resemble the accounts in the Eddas. Like the gods themselves, they are mysteries that can be plumbed only by a daring few. What follows is a quick survey of the worlds as found in the mythology. In this survey, I will focus on the exoteric rather than the esoteric significance. Whatever the true nature of these realms, we need to have a basic understanding of them to make the traditional tales more comprehensible. Magic horses like Odin's 8-legged steed or the horses of the Valkyries can carry riders between the worlds. Frigga and Freya, however, own magical cloaks made of feathers that enable them to make these journeys. Bifrost, a luminous rainbow-like bridge, provides a path between Midgard and Asgard. The world most familiar to us is the one that we live in, Midgard, literally the middle enclosure. It includes not just the planet Earth, but our entire universe or dimension. A number of religions speak of our world as lowly and unworthy, a place of suffering, from which they seek to escape to heaven or paradise. They are wrong. Midgard is a place of beauty and wonder, where everything comes together, the realm of experience and action. Even the gods like being in Midgard. Asgard is where the family of gods called the Aesir live. Here are the dwellings of various deities, the best known of which is Odin's hall Valhalla. The Vannic deities Nord, Frey, and Freya also live in Asgard. The Light Elves live in Light Elf Home. Snorri describes them as being more beautiful than the sun. Of course, the very word elf makes some readers snicker. The word comes from the Old Norse elf and refers to much more serious beings than the cute and fanciful inhabitants of children's tales. Sometimes the Elfa are classed with the Vanir, and other times they are considered the male ancestors. Dark elves live in Dark Elf Home. They are wise and are skilled craftsmen. Snorri identifies the Dark Elves with the dwarves, who, despite our modern ideas, were not originally thought of as being small. Hell is where the dead, those who do not join their gods or goddesses, end up. It is not a place of punishment, but of rest and inactivity, where the dead continue in a vegetative state with very little consciousness or will. Hell is ruled over by a goddess also named Hel. Muspelheim is a realm of fiery energy, one of the true primordial worlds that gave birth to the cosmos. It is the abode of the fire giants, the most important of which is Sutta, who will destroy the world at Ragnarok. Niflheim, the world of mist, is the other primordial world. It is the origin of the waters, which solidified into ice and interacted with Muspelheim's fires at the beginning of things. Vanaheim is the home of the gods and goddesses called the Vanir. Although the best known of the Vanir live in Asgard, there are presumably many others in Vanaheim who play no role in the myths. Jotunheim is the world of the giants, or Ettins. Their influence is destructive and oppositional, and in particular they're the antithesis of the evolving life of Midgard and Asgard. Thor, as mentioned in our discussion of the gods and goddesses, is our protection against intrusions from Jotunheim. So what does any of this mean to today's Ossetrua? Most of us don't spend a lot of time worrying about the elf realms or about Niflheim or Muspelheim, but some of the worlds are very important to us on a personal level. Midgard, of course, is our home, and it doesn't get much more personal or important than that. We live here, and hopefully learn here, and build lives of achievement and worth. Although it's easy to get wrapped up in our routine and forget the wonder all around us, Midgard is marvellous. We should learn to savour each day and count it as a unique blessing. Asgard likewise gets our attention. This is the realm of the gods and goddesses, which we hope to join after death. Some of us aspire to feast at Odin's table. Others look forward to drinking with Thor in the hall. The other deities have their own dwellings, many of which are listed in the Eddic poem Grimnismal. All of these are potential afterlife destinations for those loyal to the Aesir and Vanir. Hell matters to us because it's a place to avoid. We strive for the realms of the gods after death, but those who live lives characterized by low levels of consciousness may find that they have lost their chance. So what about the rest of the worlds in the tree? While they are ignored by most men and women, there are some who take a keen interest in them. Those who seek to imitate Odin, the mystics and magicians who seek after hidden knowledge. Explore all these worlds for what they have to teach those who want to transcend their human condition and become demigods in their own right. In this chapter, we have considered the origin of the universe, the progressive development of life, and the multi-dimensional array of worlds in the cosmic tree. We are left with an overwhelming sense of freedom, an unfettered view of all that is. This wide vista of human potential arises from the fact that we are naturally involved, uncreated beings with free will and with the liberty to explore all the worlds in accordance with our desire and our ability. As kin to the gods, the cosmos is our playground, and we will dance among the stars.